Hi, Jonas here for another edition of Positivity Now, and the magic word today is curiosity. It's said that we will never learn anything new unless we have an open mind and we take the time to listen. And that's why this episode is all about answering questions from people who are curious about positivity and they want to find ways to incorporate it into their own lives. We're going to answer some of these questions today, but if you have your own questions moving forward, you can check out www.facebook.com/JonasKane, and you can submit your questions there. The first question is, how do I develop positivity? It's a very good question, because there seems to be two camps. One camp, you have people who are just naturally positive, where they can find the good in any situation. And the other side, you have the negative camp, people who can find the worst in any situation. Of course, there's people in the middle too that could go either way depending on the circumstances. But the people on the negative side, they like to think of themselves as just being practical. They're just being realists, right? But it goes beyond that. To me, developing positivity is all about having confidence. Think about it. When we say that we're positive, do we mean that we're not too sure? When we say we're positive, do we mean that we only think something is so, or that we only wish it was so? No, of course not. When we say we're positive, it means that we're sure. It means that we know the truth. It means that we're confident because we're sure of reality. Therefore, positivity can only reflect reality. So in order to develop positivity in your life, you have to embrace reality, but you have to sort of stack the deck in your favor. You stack reality in your favor. This is what I have in mind. If we want to develop positivity in our lives, we have to therefore develop confidence. We have to stack the deck in our favor. In order to start doing that, there's a few things that we need to do. One, we need to know things about ourselves, and we also have to ask good questions. Again, the magic word is curiosity. Things that we need to know about ourselves. We need to know what our strengths are, but we also need to know what our weaknesses are. I know for me, when I was a little boy growing up, I was incredibly shy. I could barely speak to my own family, and when I did, I had a severe stutter. I couldn't get over a single word, not even a syllable, without stumbling over my words. And it wasn't until I started to figure out things about myself that I found my strengths, that I began to have the confidence to get in front of people and to start talking to people and having the stutter just magically fall away. It was by focusing on my strengths that I was able to develop confidence. And for me, that strength was learning magic. You know, I just realized I had a natural ability for it, and by capitalizing on that strength, that gave me the confidence to step in front of other people. So what this suggests is that you don't have to learn anything more or anything new in order to start developing confidence. You can start today by focusing on what you do well, but you do have to know what that is. So if you don't know what you do well, that's your first step to developing positivity. Now the other thing, as you move forward capitalizing on your strengths, you're going to find that there are these weaknesses, or what I like to call gaps between where you are and where you want to be. And the way to get over these gaps is to do what I call short-circuiting your weaknesses. And it starts by asking a different kind of question. So instead of asking the question, can I do this? If it's something that's important to you, something that will improve your life in some way, instead of asking, can I do this? We should instead ask, how can I do this? Because this starts to, has a different quality behind it. It sounds similar. The two questions sound very similar, but they have a significant difference. The question, can I, has an inherent doubt. It implies a limitation that impedes our progress before we get started. And an important thing to note here is that this limitation has nothing to do with ability, but only has to do with a lack of confidence. So capitalize on your strengths, short-circuit your weaknesses, and you'll be able to develop more positivity in your own life. Because, as I said, this stacks the deck in your favor, enabling you to walk confidently into your future. And speaking of stacking the deck, here's a magic trick that you might enjoy. Take a look. Hi, Jonas Kane here to teach you how to do a magic trick. A lot of people ask me, how do you get started in magic? And the best way is with card tricks, because cards are easy to use. People have them in their homes all the time, so this is a great way to get started in magic. One word of advice: most of the time when you learn a trick, you use the cards face down. To make this easier for demonstration and also to practice, use the cards face up. This makes it a lot easier to do. And to start, you just have a card picked. So you spread the cards face up. We'll use the 3 of hearts in this demonstration. It doesn't really matter what the card is. So what's going to happen to make this interesting, because magic in itself isn't so much interesting, but it's about what is the story? You know, what's the meaning behind all of this? So in this story, the 3 of hearts is going to be our leader card, leading us into the journey of the center of the deck. So to make this even more interesting, usually when you do a card trick, you would place the card back face down into the deck. To make this more interesting, we're placing the card face up along with about half of the other cards. So we're placing half of the deck face up and half of the deck face down into the deck of cards. On the surface, you would think that this would make this trick harder to do, but it actually makes it easier to do, and I'll show you what I mean. The 3 of hearts is now one of the face-up cards, along with about 25 or so of the other cards as well. So to find the 3 of hearts, we can ignore all of the face-down cards and focus only on the face-up cards. Again, ignore the face-down cards and only look at the face-up cards. This is one way to find the card, but it wouldn't make a very good trick. So to make this even more interesting, we're not just going to find the 3 of hearts, but we're going to arrange the other cards around the 3 of hearts. So all the cards will face the same way except for one, and I'll show you what that looks like. You just cast a shadow over the cards. And now all the cards face the same way, except for one. Now, at this point, if you're doing this trick, people will, of course, believe, or at least they'll want to believe, that that is the card that they picked, that that is the 3 of hearts. Take a look. The 3 of hearts. In disguise. It's in disguise as the Queen of Hearts. Perhaps what I forgot to mention is the Queen of Hearts is a wild card. So it could be any card in the deck, right? So a wild card could be any card. So we could have this be the 3 of hearts. In fact, if we give it a little shake, you can't quite tell if it's the Queen of Hearts. Maybe it's the King of Hearts. We're trying for it to be the 3 of hearts, though. If we give it just enough shake, it becomes the 3 of hearts. Now that's a good trick. It's a pretty decent trick, but that's not the trick that I came here to show you. This is not the trick that I want to teach you. You see, we've transformed the face of the 3 of hearts, but perhaps what's far more interesting is to transform the whole card. Not just the front, but the back of the card as well. Now again, that's a good trick, but that's truly not the whole trick that I wanted to show you. Remember, the 3 of hearts is our leader card. Only by focusing on transforming the leader can we have any hope of transforming the other cards too, like the 3 of spades, and the 2 of hearts, and the 2 of spades. In fact, we could also transform the Queen of Spades, and the 8 of spades, the King of Spades, the 10 of hearts. In fact, when the leader changes, can transform the entire deck of followers, making for a much more interesting world. And that's the trick that I want to teach you today. Enjoy. And we're back. I hope you enjoyed that magic trick. Back to the questions. Another common question that I get asked is, what exactly is positivity? Specifically, this person wants to know, isn't positivity just about ignoring reality? I think this is probably someone from the realist camp, the negative camp. And that's what a lot of people think. A lot of people think that positivity is just about ignoring reality. Specifically, they say wearing rose-colored glasses, walking around pretending that everything is fine and dandy, even when everything isn't fine and dandy. They just forge ahead even into situations that they probably should just turn around. That's not positivity. I suggest that that's ridiculous. A number of years ago, back in high school actually, I wanted to do a very impressive type of magic trick in my high school talent show. I wanted to do something that was big, something that they would remember. And I thought, well, what could be more impressive than something that's death-defying? So after giving it some thought, I decided that I was going to do a version of Russian roulette. Now, of course, this was in high school. I was 13, 14 years old, so I wasn't actually going to use a gun. So what I decided to do instead was to do something similar. I had a series of test tubes. Each test tube was filled with water, except for the last one. The last one, it was clear, it was colorless, it was odorless, it looked and smelled just like water, but it was not water. It was hydrochloric acid. And the idea was that I would be blindfolded. A member from the audience would come up and mix up the test tubes, and I would blindly drink from all the test tubes, of course leaving one test tube remaining, the one with the acid. That was the idea. That's what was supposed to happen. But in walks 13-year-old Jonas on the night of the talent show. And the very first test tube that I drank, and this is a completely true story. You can, if you go onto YouTube and type in Jonas Kane acid roulette, you will see a video of this. 13-year-old me, the very first test tube I drank, had the acid. Now, at the time, that was something like 15 years ago, everyone thought it was part of the show. Everyone just laughed and laughed. They thought it was a joke, but I had a wireless microphone on, so they could hear me running around the backstage saying, no, I'm serious, get my mom. Because of course my mother was in the audience too, at this point, freaking out. So there we were, my mom and I, on our way to the hospital. And I'm just dangling out the window, spitting because the acid had already started to eat away at my esophagus. So I couldn't swallow. And even in this state, I had the presence of mind to turn to my mother. And I told her, this is completely true. I said, we must never speak of this. 13 years old and already thinking about what people are going to be thinking. The moral of the story is this. I ended up in the hospital for a week, and I was on a feeding tube for a month. I couldn't eat solid foods. Because again, the acid had eaten away at my esophagus, so I couldn't eat solid foods, which is just as well, because the acid also ate away my taste buds. The doctors called it a bald tongue. Very rare, very rare. Thankfully, they grow back. But even in this situation, there is a silver lining. There's something positive to focus on. And it's that I found out that acid whitens your teeth. It works. I don't recommend it, but it does work. But the moral of the story is this. I was positive going into that night that I was going to have a successful outcome. Now, I was positive because in rehearsals for this trick, it worked. I mean, of course, I didn't use acid in rehearsals. Why bother practicing something that you can only fail once? So I didn't use acid. I used water, and then the last one had seltzer water. So that was what was different. And it worked. most of the time. Sometimes I still accidentally drank the seltzer. So as the day of the show approached, I just put on a positive attitude. It was like, okay, it's going to be fine. It's going to work out. It needs to work, so it will work out just fine. That's not positivity. That's ridiculous. Positivity has to honor reality. Because remember, positivity is a confidence. It's not just an attitude. Having a positive attitude is great to get us started. It's a great motivator. But to actually have positivity, you have to have something more. You have to have an indwelling, this being of yourself, of positivity. Honoring reality, but using the frame made up of the words that we choose to focus on to either have either a good outcome or an outcome where we can learn from our experience. So I hope that explains what positivity is versus what it isn't. Again, it's honoring reality. It's not about ignoring reality. So I hope that makes sense. And we're going to now go into a bonus magic word, and I hope you enjoy it. The magic word is listen. Hearing is the easy part. We can hear with little effort. It's the listening that requires attention. To truly listen, we have to shut off the distractions, to offer our minds the peace and quiet needed to really hear and to really listen. Larry King once said, "Nothing I say this day will teach me anything. So if I'm going to learn, I must do it by listening." The next time someone is speaking with you, don't just hear, but sincerely listen to what they are saying. Give them the gift of your full attention. There's a woman I know, a friend of a friend. To call her an acquaintance would be an overstatement because I've really only met her a handful of times and just haven't had an opportunity to get to know her. But what little I do know about her, her most apparent gift is the gift of listening. Every time I speak with her, I can easily tell that she's genuinely interested in what I'm saying, taking in everything without being distracted by her inner thoughts or outer distractions. And it's not just with me. Once I recognized this talent in her, I was careful to observe her as she listened to others. And it was always the same. Her full attention leans in to whoever is interacting with her. It's an enviable gift, and I aspire to acquire such an important skill. So today, I suggest that you pay attention to your listening. If you catch yourself talking more than you're listening or overthinking things more than you're listening, then take a simple step back. Reaffirm your desire to sincerely listen, and then start again. If you do this every day, and if you follow through with it, just imagine what is possible. And that's why today's magic word is listen. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Positivity Now. My name is Jonas Kane. I'll see you next time. Stay positive.